Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Heaven's Strongest Superman. Chapter 41. Brother Chu, this is where your master is? Jing Jing asked curiously, looking at Renjia town, the size of an ant under her feet. Well, this is Ren Jiajun. Master has lived here for more than 10 years. Jian Jingjing asked, and Chu Yang suddenly spoke. Let's go. I'll take you to Yizhuang and see master. Talking, Chu Yang could not help speeding up, and in an instant, came to Yizhuang. Wait, I'm going to knock on the door. Looking at the brand new door, Chu Yang quickly whispered to Jing Jing, then released Jing Jing, came to the door and knocked on the door. Who? Here, a familiar voice came from inside, and the door opened a moment later. Brother, you're back. Looking at Chu Yang wearing a blue shirt and a beautiful face, Wen Kai was full of excitement. Come back, master, are you all okay? Looking at Wen Kai, Chu Yang said with a smile. It's all good, it's just that you're gone. Master isn't pleasing to our eyes. Every day we slap us and ask us to intensify our cultivation. You don't know the taste. It's miserable. Seeing Chu Yang asking this, Wen Kai couldn't help complaining. Then he seemed to be stunned and suddenly looked at Chu Yang. Master, who is this beauty? Can you introduce me to? Brother, Jing Jing is my woman, so you know. Seeing Wen Kai's complexion, Chu Yang said coldly. I understand, brother, please come in quickly. After hearing the faint threat in Chu Yang's words, Wen Kai quickly said with a frustrated face. After inviting Chu Yang and Jing Jing to Yizhuang, they left in a hurry. Brother Chu, your brother looks at me with a dark look, isn't it a satyr? Looking at the back of Wen Kai's departure, Jing Jing couldn't help leaning against Chu Yang's ears and said nervously. Brother Wen Kai is indeed a satyr, but it's not bad, you don't have to be nervous. Looking at Jing Jing's nervous appearance, Chu Yang could not help expressing calmly. But, Brother Chu, I'm still a little scared. Jing Jing was still a little uneasy. Looking at Jing Jing's appearance, Chu Yang was suddenly speechless. You know, in the original book, Jing Jing's temper was very fierce. Because Jala accidentally touched her, she was almost chopped to death. It's okay, I'll take you to see master first. Then, Chu Yang took her hand and walked all the way to the lobby. Ayang, you are back. He was scolding Chu Sheng and Afang's 9 uncles, and looked at Chu Yang's figure and said with relief. Meet master. Chu Yang stepped forward, saluting. Jing Jing saw Chu Yang so, and quickly saluted, meet the master. Ayang, is this girl? Jushu looked at Jing Jing saluting, and said a little surprised. This is Jing Jing. If nothing happens, it should be your daughter-in-law. Seeing Jushu asking, Chu Yang could not help answering. But he didn't want to. Chu Yang's answer made Jushu and the people present to be aggressive. Master, when did Ayang recognize you as your righteous father? Wen Kai, and Chu Sheng, Alphon and others kneeling on the ground all looked curiously at Uncle Ju. Ayang, you didn't understand this for the teacher. Jushu said a little puzzled. As a teacher for one day and as a father for life, the disciple's wife can be called your daughter-in-law. Chu Yang looked at Uncle Ji and said humbly. Good, good, good. After listening to Chu Yang's words, Uncle Ju said 3 good words, then calmed down and said to Chu Yang, Yang, I can receive you such a disciple as a teacher. Blessed. Quote. Speaking, what seemed to come to mind, he quickly drew a piece of rune paper and handed it to Jing Jing. This is some kind of courtesy given to you by the teacher, and you must keep it close to you. Thank you, master. Jing Jing took the amulet and said thankfully. 5 elements rune. After Chu Yang glanced at the drawing of the charm, he suddenly said in surprise. Brother Chu, what do the 5-element runes mean? Jing Jing didn't practice the path, naturally she didn't know the value of this rune, and couldn't help wondering now. With this spell, you won't be killed by flooding, you won't be killed by fire, and you won't be hurt by the metal. Chu Yang said with joy. He also painted this kind of spell, but failed. According to the book, only when he reaches a certain level of painting, can he draw. Ah, then I don't have to. After hearing Chu Yang's explanation, Jing Jing also knew the preciousness of the rune paper, and she had to return it to Jushu, but she was stopped by Chu Yang. Just accept it. Quote. Jing Jing, if you don't accept it, then you won't give me face. Uncle Ju said sternly. Then I will accept it. Seeing Chu Yang and Jushu say this, Jing Jing put it down and put it next to her. After seeing this, Chu Sheng and others looked at each other, and quickly said to Uncle Ju, Master, one day as a teacher and lifelong father, we have all been your son for more than 10 years, or else you will send some 5-element runes give it to us. Quote. Wow, have you been my son for more than 10 years? After hearing the words of several people, Uncle Ju said with a smirk. On the side of Chu Yang, watching Jushu show a smile similar to that in the movie, his face could not help showing a hint of silence. In the movie, every time Uncle Ju shows this evil smile, there is always something going on. In the words of Mr. Chang, an uncle in the movie Mr. Ling Chiang, to explain, when the master laughed so much last time, several families died in the village. It's been more than 10 years, father. Chu Sheng and others said shamelessly. Oh, for more than 10 years, I have raised you for more than 10 years. Not only do you eat mine and live with me, but you also cause trouble to me, and I lose a lot of money. I have not killed you, it is already your life. I didn't expect to have the courage to demand the 5 elements rune. Quote. Speaking, Uncle Ju seemed to have thought of something, and sneered again and again and again and again. Don't talk about trouble, I forgot, Chu Sheng Alphon, you too, stole my money to play without telling me, and provoke me back a ghost, doing a lot of trouble. Quote. Brother Chu, Master looks so scary. Witnessing all of this, he whispered to Chu Yang. Don't be afraid, Master is very kind. Seeing Jing Jing being scared by Uncle Ju, Chu Yang could not help but comfort. Later, he looked at Uncle Ju and said, Master, what mischief did the 2 brothers cause you? In the 8 days you left, you received a business for the introduction of Mr. Shi Jingren, helped a village in the countryside to watch feng shui, and made a lot of money, but it was impossible to imagine that these 2 stupid boys had raised me in justice last night. A small zombie in Zhuang stole my money to play in the town, even if it was fun, he provoked a ghost back to me. Ju Shu said angrily. Ah, this plot is so familiar to Mao, is it? A long eyebrow. After listening to Ju Shu's explanation, Chu Yang could not help but meditate in his heart. That's it, but you don't have to be so angry, Master, as the saying goes, the child is not good at getting old, most of the time it's ill, just a fight. Seeing Ju Ji being so angry, Chu Yang could not help but comfort. Iang, you're right. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Uncle Ju couldn't help but realize. Brother, you are so poisonous. Chu Sheng and Alfonso said to Chu Yang that they could not help but resentfully said. What poison is it? A filial son under the stick, your little brother, also wants you to make a lot of progress in the future. After hearing Chu Sheng and Afeng's words, Uncle Ju could not help but scolded, and then waved to indicate that Chu Yang, Jing Jing and Wen Kai left. So he took out his whip and looked sternly at Chu Sheng and others. In the courtyard, Brother Chu, will this create a gap between your teachers and brothers? Jing Jing said a little worried. Jing Jing, you don't understand, my brothers, the 5 elements are underplayed. Chu Yang sighed. Iang, Wen Kai heard Chu Yang's words and immediately turned his attention to him. Look what you see, you are also underplayed by the 5 elements. Chu Yang said mercilessly. Brother Chu, why do you say your brothers owe fights? Jing Jing looked at Chu Yang and asked a little puzzled. Jing Jing, let me tell you this. If there is a demon in trouble, it just happened to be met by my master. My master can solve him alone in 10 minutes, but with the help of this group of pig-like brothers, what happened for more than 10 minutes can be dragged on for a few hours. Chu Yang said all his dissatisfaction when he watched Jushu's movie. When I watched the Juzi zombie film and the Ghost series, when I saw the boss every 10 minutes, it was going to be solved by Jishu, this group of pig-like disciples had to complicate things and even nearly killed them several times. Uncle Ju, at that time, what I wanted to do most was to pull the pigs out for a beat. Ah, is there such a thing? After listening to Chu Yang's words, Jing Jing said with a shocked look. Well, not only that, but I didn't say it, for fear of hurting their pride. After touching Yang Jing's head, Chu Yang said with a smile. Master, I don't think it's fair. Except that I was scared by Chu Sheng's stinky boy last time and caused trouble, I haven't added any trouble to Master. Wen Kai quashed. That's because I'm here. If I didn't come, your pig-like teammate is expected to pit the Master from the king to bronze. Seeing Wen Kai was still guilty, Chu Yang almost shouted. Throughout Jushu's series of talents, this product is the most troublesome existence. Wen Kai seemed to want to say something, but he was scared by the screams coming from the lobby just when he was about to speak. Master, I was wrong. Ah, the screams lasted for half an hour. For half an hour, Uncle Ji carried the pipe and came out. Ayang, give me a fire, please. Looking at Chuyang, he said politely. Ah, master, don't you automatically make a fire? Seeing Jushu want to light him by himself, Chuyang said a little puzzled. These matches are expensive these days. Reiki is used a little less, so. Uncle Ju said awkwardly. So, master, how do you want me to light you? Chuyang said questioningly. Don't your eyes shoot out flames? Just use that to light up master. Quote. Hearing what Uncle Ju was saying, Chuyang couldn't help but be speechless. It is estimated that only this big man used Superman's hot vision to light a cigarette. No matter what, Chuyang finally lit Jushu with hot vision. After smoking a few cigarettes, Uncle Ju seemed to be thinking of something, and quickly said to Chuyang, Ayang. Ting Ting often comes to you these days and says that if you come back, at noon at 12 noon see her in the old place. Quote. After that, he continued to smoke comfortably. Looking at Jushu's operation, Chuyang's heart suddenly passed by 10,000 grass and mud horses. Uncle Ju is really a disciple. Did you see a woman next to the apprentice? Is it really appropriate for you to mention another woman in front of her? Sure enough, Jing Jing felt a bit lost after hearing what Ju Ji said. Although Chuyang had already told her that she would have many women, she. Don't be sad, you all have the same weight in my heart. Realizing Jing Jing's loss, Chuyang could not help but hold it in her arms and said intimately. Brother Chu, although the moment I left you, I have accepted the fact that you will have more women in the future, but I don't know why, whenever I hear you have a relationship with other women, my heart is very uncomfortable. Jing Jing said with a painful face. I knew I didn't look at you pitifully at the beginning, and took you to the moon to see the sky. Chuyang said with regret suddenly. What's wrong, Brother Ching, is Jing Jing annoying you? Wen Yan said, Jing Jing couldn't help but say. It's not you that made me angry, but I don't think I should hit you, because I can't seem to give you true love. Looking at Jing Jing's delicate face, Chuyang's face was a little complicated. Ayang, there are two other living people. Keep a low profile. Under the violent bombardment of the couple next to him, Uncle Ji was a little bitter. It's master. After hearing what Ju Ji said, Chuyang couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. After nodding, he quickly brought Jing Jing to his house. Master, I want a woman too. Looking at the back of Chuyang and Jing Jing leaving, Wen Kai could not help but kneel beside Uncle Ju, begging, saying. Master, we also want to. Chu Sheng and Alphonse lying on their backs in the hall also begged. Well, not only do you think. I also want to be a teacher. Seeing this, Ju's eyes are also full of tears. He now suddenly regrets that he abandoned Lian Mei and went to the mountain to learn. There is a girl who is fun to practice. Uncle Ju was young and ignorant before. Now she can't regret it. On the other side, Chuyang comforted Jing Jing, and instead of doing some shame, she left. After all, listening to Jushu said that Ren Tingting would come to find himself every day during this time. This kind of behavior is still very touching. You have to make some expressions, otherwise, wouldn't it have failed the wishes of the beauties? Just like Chuyang once said, I have never liked any woman. Before the system, this is still the case. But he can guarantee that everyone who truly loves himself will return more love. In Renjia town, Chuyang stood in front of a familiar cafe and bought a rose from the system space, then came in with a smile. Well, I don't know if Chuyang will come, it's been several days. Where did he go? Ren Tingting supported her chin with one hand and stirred the coffee in the cup with one hand. The whole person's face was full of acacia. Bitter girl. Entering the cafe, Chuyang saw Ren Tingting at a glance, and saw the love feelings on her face, and sighed in her heart. Then quickly walked over, handed her the rose, and laughed while handing it. Miss, this flower is a good match for you. Where's the flow? Hearing this kind of laughter, Ren Tingting couldn't help feeling disgust on his face, and now he wanted to drive away. But after seeing Chuyang's face, he suddenly said with a surprise, Chuyang, why are you are back. Be quiet, noisy to others. Seeing the expression of dissatisfaction around her, Chu Yong could not help but put her finger on her lips. I wonder if it was a mistake or because Chu Yong put his finger on his lips, and Ren Tingting nodded blushingly. After signaling him to sit down, Chu Yong pulled a bench and sat directly opposite Ren Tingting. If I don't come back, I'm afraid that some fool will miss me and stay up all night. Chu Yong looked at Ren Tingting, who was dressed in fashion in front of her, and joked halfway. I hate it, I won't miss you, I want to stay up all night. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Ren Tingting could not help but look proud. I didn't say it was you, Chu Yong said in a flash of strange color. Sir, your coffee. The waiter handed the coffee to Chu Yong. Then who are you talking about? Wen Yan said. Ren Tingting couldn't help but say eagerly. Could there be other women in this town like Chu Yong? My master, Uncle Ju. Chu Yong said after taking a sip of coffee. How could it be Uncle Ju? Could it be you? Ren Tingting was still staying in the provincial capital for a long time. Naturally, I heard that some of the disciples of big families have special habit. Yang said. It's very rotten girl's potential. It seems to take some time to adjust. When Ren Tingting wanted to be distorted, Chu Yong couldn't help but meditate. Then he said, what are you talking about? My Uncle Ju is a pure mentoring and apprenticeship. What I said just now is just to amuse you, little fool. Really, it's so bad, it's such a trick. Ting Ren could not help saying that when she heard Chu Yang's words, but if someone carefully observed, she would find that she was relieved. Ting, now I want to tell you a particularly important thing. After talking, almost, Chu Yong stared at Ren Tingting with all eyes. What's the matter? For the first time when Chu Yong was so serious, Ren Tingting thought that something was going to happen, and now she couldn't help panic. Ting, I don't want to hide from you. Actually, I have many women. Chu Yong said solemnly, watching and observing Fan Renting's face. What's the problem? Ren Tingting said after a sip of coffee. This is not a problem. I have a lot of women. Looking at the incomprehensible look on Ren Tingting's face, Chu Yong reiterated a bit aggressively. Isn't it normal for many men to have a manly husband? Then I know that I am entrusted with an excellent person, not a mortal. Looking at the aggressive color on Chu Yang's face, Ren Tingting smiled. Said. Ting, you will be my woman in the future. No matter where you are, whether you live or die. Chu Yong grabbed Ren Tingting's jade hand and said sincerely. Regardless of life or death. Ren Tingting said the same. In the evening, after Chu Yong sent Ren Tingting home, she returned to Yizhuang. Of course, he didn't use flying, but chose to go. The purpose is understandable by men, and it's for the purpose of recruiting ghosts. However, sometimes many things are unexpected. This time Dong Xiaoyu did not find him. Could the author let me go and stop me from performing Dafa? After walking for a long time, after discovering that Dong Xiaoyu was still not here, Chu Yong couldn't help but question. Oh, no, it was pitiful to see Dong Xiaoyu, and I wanted to put her in the harem. I never thought. Shaking his head, Chu Yong left in an instant. As everyone knows, at the moment Chu Yong left, Dong Xiaoyu appeared in a tree not far away from him, looking sadly at his back, saying, Lang Jun, you and I have no fate in this life. If you meet the king again, you will have a grassy ring in return for grace. After that, it disappeared. Inside Yizhuang, Brother Chu, you are back. Looking at Chu Yong, who fell from the sky to the courtyard, Jing couldn't help running and hugged it in her arms. Ayang, it's just here, come and eat. The Uncle Ju, who was eating, saw Chu Yong return, and could not help but sit down and eat. Yeah, Brother Chu, sit down and eat. Jing let go of Chu Yong and said for her meal. Yeah, Chu Yong nodded, and quickly sat at the dining table. I glanced around and found that only Wen Kai and A Fang were at the table. Now I asked Uncle Ju, hey, Master, Brother A Xing and Sister Xiaoyu have gone. Now it's dinner time, why don't they come back? Quote. Oh, Xiaoyu and Axing, they watched the church in the town. During this time, they lived there first, and waited for a while to change. Chusheng and Alphon went to guard. After having a meal, Uncle Ju patiently answered Chu Yang's question. By the way, he also pointed out that Chu Sheng and Alfang would go next time. Master, this is not fair. Why not change the little master? A Fang still remembered what Chu Yong persuaded Jushu to beat them, so now he grumbles. Although Chu Sheng didn't speak, he still patted the bowl on the table to show his dissatisfaction. Wen Kai didn't say anything. Although he was slow to respond, he was not stupid. After observation these days, Chu Yong was very much liked by Master. If he jumped out at Chu Yong at this time, he would definitely be remembered by Master. Now, if you make a mistake someday, it is estimated that a leather whip is inevitable. The scene was terrifying to think of Master walking towards himself with a whip and a wicked smile on his face. Yang is the most talented person in my Maoshan for hundreds of years. The urgent task is to cultivate. In the future, it will shine on the gate, where there is time to guard the Taoist church. Speaking of what Uncle Ju seemed to be thinking of, he said quickly, I almost forgot, you and Chu Sheng waited to find the woman's body. If you see and find you'll be out of luck. I will not help you this time. Quote. After speaking, I put down the chopsticks and went back to the room. After listening to Ju Shu's words, Chu Sheng and Afeng suddenly lost their mood to eat. After looking at each other, they left. Jingjing, you and brother Wenkai first clean up, I still have to go to Master. After drying the rice in the bowl, Chu Yong whispered to Jingjing. After losing 2 oceans to Wenkai, he walked towards the room where Ju Shu was. Master, disciples have something to ask for. Chu Yong stood outside the door, saluting. Come in, Uncle Ju said. After hearing what Uncle Ju was saying, Chu Yong quickly pushed in and suddenly saw Uncle Ju feeding a little zombie. Master, is this the little zombie you raised? It looks quite spiritual. Chu Yong looked at the little zombie and said with a smile. This little zombie was picked up by a division when he was walking south and north, and when he saw him, his mind was wide open, and his mind was killed, but then he thought that these zombies had not yet it hurts, you shouldn't kill, so I keep it with me. Quote. Uncle Ju said with kindness on his face, seeing that he had extraordinary feelings for this little zombie. But Yang, now you are not going to talk to your little daughter-in-law, but instead find what to do for the teacher. After feeding the tomatoes in his hand to the little zombies, Uncle Ju said curiously. Master, you still have to accept these things. Seeing Ju Shu asking, Chu Yong quickly found a pile of high stones, and then said to Ju Shu. This is a spiritual stone. Feeling the strong aura emanating from the stone, Uncle Ju couldn't help but said with a look of shock. Well, the disciples were fortunate to find an abandoned spirit vein, and used their abilities to dig a lot. Chu Yong screeched. Yang, put it away. These things are too valuable. You should keep them for yourself. You have been over 40 years old as a teacher. Even if you use these spirit stones to break through to the Jindan period, it will be difficult to achieve great achievements in the future. Quote. Ju Shu stood up and patted Chu Yang's shoulder, and said with great care. Master, I still have Ling Shi. You can use these. Listen to Uncle Simu saying that the current master of the Dandan period of Maoshan, Bo Shijian, is at odds with you. If you also break through the Jindan period, I believe he will if you want to measure against you. Quote. Seeing Ju Shu going to take back the spirit stone that is as high as a hill on the ground, Chu Yong quickly said that he was not bad money, and by the way, he told some Jijian's threat theory to Ju Shu. Of course, Shijian and Ju Shu's disagreement was not what Chuyong Daodao told Chu Yong, but Chu Yong learned about watching a movie. In the Uncle Supreme series of British uncles, Ji Shu started a fight with Shijian. Fighting method, the Uncle Jufu and other people in that fight were hanged. If it wasn't for the protagonist Guang environmental protection, it is estimated that all of them would hit the street. All right, Yang, these spirit stones were accepted as teachers. After hearing what Chu Yong said, Juju thought it over carefully and couldn't help but nodded and promised. That being the case, the disciples resigned, wishing Master a breakthrough in Jindan as soon as possible. Talking, Chu Yong retreated, but before walking a few steps, the little zombie jumped in front of Chu Yong and stopped him. What are you doing? Looking at the little zombie blocking his way, Chu Yong quickly asked. The little zombie's self-cultivation hasn't reached the level of talking. Now he can only hold his pants and point to the pile of spirits. Second, understand. Seeing the little zombie pulling his pants and pointing at the pile of spirits, Chu Yong immediately understood, and then a fist-sized spirit was presented to the zombie. Looking at the spirit stone in Chu Yong's hand, the little zombies quickly reached out to take over, but did not want to just because of this. the body of one person and one corpse suddenly made contact, and the hands of the little zombies were burned. Woohoo! Burned by the huge heat uploaded by Chu Yang's hands, the little zombie suddenly cried. What's wrong? Jushu was originally collecting Lingxi, and at this moment heard the cry of the little zombie, and quickly asked. While pointing at Chu Yang, the little zombie covered his hands and signaled. System, what's wrong with this little zombie? I didn't burn him with hot eyesight. After watching the little zombie touched himself, he held his hand in pain, Chu Yang said with a grim expression. Ding, the zombie is the most overwhelming thing. The reason for the little zombie is that he just touched the host's hand and triggered the amount of solar energy in the host's body. Therefore, he was tragically burned. So it is. After hearing a systematic explanation, Chu Yang finally understood the truth of the matter. Ayang, what's the matter? Jushu turned his eyes to Chu Yang after seeing the little zombie fruitless. Zombies are the most insidious and evil, and Chu Yang told the system's remarks to Jushu. It's a sad story. After listening to Chu Yang's explanation, Jishu had to sigh. Then it wasn't too late, and he said to Chu Yang, Ayang, you just came back from your master today. All the way, I went to rest, go back to rest first. I will deal with the little zombies. Quote. The disciple retired first. Seeing Jushu saying this, after a handful of gifts, Chu Yang left and returned to his room. Brother Chu, are you back? Jing Jing, who was practicing cheats, was rummaged in the room. When she saw Chu Yang return, she greeted her with excitement. Master has taught you the exercises. Looking at Jing Jing's exercises, Chu Yang could not help asking. Master said, you are expected to live a long time in the future. I can only stand with you if I practice to a certain level. Speaking of the last 4 words, Jing Jing's face could not help flushing, obviously a little shy. Ask me if you don't understand anything. I can guide you so that you don't take a detour. Chu Yang couldn't help but smile a little. Well, if there is something I don't understand in the Zanyu Zhen Jing, I will definitely ask Brother Chu. The girl nodded and said in an echo. Xuanyu Zhenjing. Chu Yang remembered that the technique he practiced was Xuanri Xinjing, and Master gave Jing Jing Xuanyu Zhenjing. Brother Chu, what's wrong with you? Looking at Chu Yang in deep thought, Jing Jing couldn't help but say. Jing Jing, show me your exercises. Chu Yang said in a deep voice. Here, Brother Chu. Jing Jing passed the exercises in a clever way. After quickly glancing through the exercises, Chu Yang couldn't help but worship the roof of Jushu. Brother Chu, why are you this? Jing Jing said a little puzzled. Because Master has given you a set of dual practice exercises, which happens to be complementary to mine. So I would like to thank him. Chu Yang said with a smile on his face. Of course, he still had a word hidden in his heart. He originally wanted to find a suitable practice method for the girls in the family to practice. Unexpectedly, Master sent a double repair gift package. Brother Chu, what does Shuang Shu mean? You confused me again. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Jing Jing asked again. Shuang Shu, that's the kind of 2 people in bed. Chu Yang whispered in Jing Jing's ear. Brother Chu, this. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Jing Jing flushed, and said something difficult to say. Looking at Jing Jing's shameless appearance, Chu Yang immediately hugged her mouth pressed against her ear, and whispered softly, Jing Jing, brother wants to try double repair tonight. After that, he bit a bit. An ear. Brother Chu, lightly. In the face of the offensive of the old driver Chu Yang, Jing Jing soon fell, and after feeling that something was wrong, she quickly whispered. It was said that Chu Yang could not help but blow out the lights, then hugged Jing Jing to bed and began to kiss. That night, the big wolf ate the little white sheep. Early the next morning, Chu Yang got up early, stood in the courtyard, and moved his muscles. Ayang, your boy was not honest last night. Uncle Ju, dressed in a robe, passed by Chu Yang and laughed. Cough. Seeing Ju Shu saying this, Chu Yang suddenly understood, and now he could not help but cough a few times awkwardly. Then he looked at Uncle Ju in a robe and asked curiously, Master, where are you going? The matter of helping people to see feng shui has not yet been resolved. Today, we will also supervise the villagers to dig water sources and build wells. Uncle Ju didn't hide it, and said straight away. Supervise the digging of water. This is not in the original book, when the vampire was born. After hearing what Uncle Ju said, Chu Yong couldn't help thinking about it. Master, let me go with you, Chu Yong said in the spirit of eliminating the boss. Yes, seeing Chu Yong wanting to have a long experience, Ju Shu immediately agreed. Watching Ju Shu agree, Chu Yong returned to the room to check Fan Jingjing and set off with Ju Shu. After about 2 hours, Chu Yong and Ju Shu came to a village. Uncle Ju, you are finally here. The village chief, who was discussing the digging of the water, saw the arrival of Ju Shu and could not help welcoming him, saluting with fists. Since Uncle Ju's exploration of feng shui for a few days ago, the village chief knew that Ju Shu was a master of Taoism, so he respected him. How are you digging? Is the water out? Uncle Ji looked at the village chief and said calmly. I don't know why. I waited for the digger from yesterday to the present and I haven't seen water. Seeing Ju Shu asking about the digging, the village chief could not help expressing his ugliness. If the feng shui of the village is not good, it is estimated that his village chief will soon be bombarded by the villagers. Should not. Hearing the words of the village chief, Ju Shu's face could not help but be full of doubt. Although he could not call his feng shui technique the first in Maoshan, it was at least the top 10. But even a small water source cannot be surveyed. Master, let's take a look at the scene, Chu Yong said, watching Uncle Ju full of doubts. I don't know what this is. The village chief pointed at Chu Yong curiously. This is my young apprentice Chu Yong, one of the most talented disciples under my door. Seeing the village chief's inquiry, Ju Shu could not help but proudly said. So it's so disrespectful and disrespectful. After hearing what Ju Ju said, the village head quickly hurled his fists in Chu Yong to pay tribute. The village head doesn't have to do this, but let us take us to the construction site, Chu Yong said blankly. Okay, two of you please. The village chief didn't respond anymore, so he took Chu Yong and Ji Shu to the construction site. Standing halfway, it seemed that something was sensed. Uncle Ju quickly panicked and said, not good, the sky is changing, there must be a demon. Ayang, keep up. With that said, he hurried up with spiritual blessings and ran up the mountain. Village leader, let's go one step ahead. After seeing Ju Shu running towards the mountain, Chu Yong said to the village leader, and then he flew into the air and flew over. It's a real man. The village chief couldn't help but sigh as he watched the teachers and apprentices disappear before their eyes. At the construction site on the top of the mountain, Chu Yong followed Ju Shu and walked towards the construction pit in a hurry. Captain, who moved the position? Ju Shu came to Wei, who hadn't seen him for a long time, and asked, looking at the exhumed body. Oh, it's Uncle Ju. We haven't moved the position. They were dug at the position of the wooden sign you placed, Wei said excitedly. Really not. If you dig according to my location, it should not dig out the body and cause a vision of the heavens and the earth. If Ji Shu didn't believe Wei too much, he couldn't help but ask. I said no or no. Don't think I call you Uncle Ju, you really are my uncle. Seeing Ju Shu asking, Wei said impatiently. Because of the joining of Chu Yong, the plot of Mr. Zombie ended prematurely, so that Wei did not see the scene of Ju Shu Dafa Shenwei surrendering the zombies. Therefore, Wei did not pay homage to Ju Shu, but instead, because of Chu Yong hurt him, a bit more malicious to Uncle Ju. Had it not been for Master Ren to let himself assist Uncle Ju this time, Wei would not have been so polite to talk to Uncle Ju. Wei, speak well. Seeing that Wei was awkward, Chu Yong could not help but persuade. It turned out to be your kid. Hearing this familiar voice, Wei suddenly turned his eyes to Chu Yong behind Uncle Ji, saying with a bad voice. What about me? Chu Yong said calmly. Not only did you hurt me, you also robbed my cousin. I will not beat you today, I am not a human. Wei said angrily, and then took out a pistol from his waist and aimed at Chu Yong. Captain, have something to say. Ju Shu saw Wei's disagreement and drew his gun at Chu Yong. He couldn't help but worry, although he knew that Chu Yong was as hard as steel, but he was still uneasy. After all, he still heard about the power of this gun. Wei, you have to change your habit if you don't agree. Watching Wei start to shoot people, Chu Yong frowned. How are you afraid? Hurry up and tell my uncle cousin clearly that you don't like Ting Ting, let him give Ting Ting to me. By the way, give me a few clicks. I'll spare you. Seeing Chu Yong's frowning, Wei thought Chu Yong was afraid, and said with a look of pride. Master, is there any hospital in Renjia town? Chu Yong asked Aunt Ji to look proud and asked the Uncle Ju. Hospital, there seems to be a family here. Although Uncle Ju didn't know why Chu Yong asked this question, he thought about it and answered. Boy, what do you ask the hospital for? Away said puzzledly. In his opinion, this Chu Yong is about to die, and asked what the hospital is doing. Send you in, Chu Yong said with a sneer, then grabbed the gun, raised his leg, and kicked Away's crotch. Ah, ah, upon receiving this kick, he felt a sense of fragmentation coming from under him, and Away shouted loudly, then fell to the ground. Cousin, a long woman like a village girl saw Away fell to the ground and immediately ran over to help Away. Cousin, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. The woman who looked like a village girl looked at Away in her arms and said with a look of worry. Broken, Away said painfully, and then fainted. Come on, help take your cousin to the hospital. When Away fainted, the woman started calling. Soon a group of people gathered around, with the help of Chu Yong, led Away to the hospital. Iang, you are too hard. Watching the crowds of stars and moons lift away, Jushu could not help but speak to Chu Yong. Master, my credo in life is, people do'n't offend me, I do'n't offend, if anyone offends me, I hit his family, and Away was just beaten by me. Fei, after hearing what Uncle Ju said, Chu Yong couldn't help but say solemnly. Oh, no, Away himself is dead, no matter what, Iang, come and see the corpse with the teacher. See, Chu Yong said that Jushu simply doesn't care, anyway, Away and him it doesn't matter, pointing at the hanging corpse at the moment, he said to Chu Yong. Yes, master, Chu Yong nodded, then pulled the hanging body over and placed it on the ground. The corpse's eyes are red, and they are not rotten. I'm afraid it is a foreign alien, Ji Shu said attentively, looking at the corpse washed out by the rain, his solemn appearance. An alien, isn't this a vampire? Iang, do you know this kind of thing? Jushu asked curiously when he saw Chu Yong's name. Well, I've heard it for a while. A vampire is a demon who can survive for a long time by drinking the blood of humans or other animals. As long as there is always blood to drink, they can reach the point of immortality for a long time, almost like the fairy. Seeing Jushu being interested in such things, Chu Yong could not help but popularize it. These demons can live forever. No one was not uninterested in immortality. After hearing that the vampire could immortality, Jushu couldn't help but marvel. It can, but it's a pity to keep drinking fresh blood, and vampires are afraid of sunlight, garlic, holy water, and crosses. Alright, that's all, master, let's get him out and find a new source of water for the village chief. Quote. After pulling a lot, Chu Yong said to Jushu. Well, it's better for these demons to perish. If they are resurrected, they may cause trouble. After hearing the words, Uncle Ju nodded. Bye-bye. He patted the vampire's face, Chu Yong said with a playful expression, and then fired a fiery red laser in his eyes, shot on the vampire, and soon burned it to ashes. Looking at the ashes on the ground and the cross that fell to the ground, Chu Yong said the cross into the system space and then said to Jushu, Master, we'll go and survey the source of water for the village head. Let's go. After listening to Chu Yang's words, Jushu quickly said, and then left with Chu Yong. After working with Uncle Ju and helping the village head to locate the water source again, Chu Yong and Jushu went to Yizhuang after having a meal under the warm reception of the village head. Chu Yong went to town on the way. I bought some supplements. Inside Yizhuang, Chu Yong's room. Jing, is it better? Looking at Jing lying in bed reading, Chu Yong asked with a look of affection. It's still hurting now, brother Chu, everyone said it should be lighter. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Jing could not help laying down the books in her hand, muttering her mouth, and said with dissatisfaction. No way, it's too big, and I can't control the speed, and I don't know where to control it, so. Chu Yong said apologetically. Despite the help of Bingwo, Chu Yong's power will be removed, but Chu Yong's speed is still very fast. When it moves, it is like a machine gun firing wildly. It is very difficult for a woman who has experienced personnel to survive. Yes, like the poisonous island sister-in-law and Takagi Saya, they were also convinced by their own set of machine guns. Jing said these things. I'm ashamed. After listening to Chu Yang's words, Jing's face was full of red. You little girl, you treat each other frankly, but still so shy. Seeing Jing Jing's red face, Chu Yong could not help but shaved her nose and said with a smile. Master, open the door. We have been looking for a long time and we still can't find the female body. Please help. In this case, you have to rely on yourself. The tools are in the lobby. Take your own. Master. Chu Yong was about to tease Jing Jing again, and suddenly heard such a voice in her ear, she couldn't help standing up now. Brother Chu, what are you doing? Seeing Chu Yong suddenly stand up, Jing Jing said curiously. Jing Jing, these spirit stones, you take it first, I will go out and see the two poor ghosts. After showing a few spirit stones and passing them to Jing Jing, Chu Yong pushed the door and left. In the lobby, Ahao, you are Master's big disciple. You have been with Master for a long time. You should have learned it. A Fang held the jar and looked at a series of props. This is the Kongming lantern, I saw it made by the Master. Seeing a Fang asking, Chu Sheng couldn't help but say. Then you should get it. Upon hearing Chu Sheng's words, looking at the other party's pride, a Fang said with a look of surprise. No, Chu Shengshi replied forcefully, jokingly, am I Chu Sheng who can learn by reading? You look down on me. Then you're so proud of it. After hearing Chu Sheng's answer, Alphonse teased. Because I've seen it. You haven't seen it. Chu Sheng's face smiled again. Need help. When he came to the lobby and watched the two fools chatting and blowing water, Chu Yong couldn't help but say. 2. Seeing Chu Yang's help, a Fang was surprised and authentic, but before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Chu Sheng. Excuse me, how dare you bother Master's baby disciple? Let's do our own work. Chu Sheng said full of yin and yang, and it seemed that he was still worried about being beaten by Chu Yong. Ahao, Xiaoxi wants to help, why should we refuse? Seeing Chu Sheng refused Chu Yong's help, Al Fang could not help but lean on his ear and said. Did you forget that beating yesterday? I still have pain in my buttocks. I tell you that even if Chu Sheng is dead, I will not let him help. Chu Sheng said firmly, his determination to make the world. They all looked at each other. If Chu Yong looked closely, he would find out how similar that determination is to himself. But, a Fang said hesitantly, don't, but I tell you, being a man must have a backbone, or the same sentence, I am Chu Sheng, I will not let him help, I do not need him to help, if I ask him to help, I will call his father. See Alphonse, you have to persuade yourself, Chu Sheng could not help but say solemnly. Oh, then I'll go back and take care of Jing Jing. I heard that once a woman is entangled in a female ghost, she will not die. Just a few days ago I saw a ghost who was killed by the ghost's resentment man, the Chichao look, I will never forget it. Seeing Chu Sheng rejected himself, Chu Yong said with a playful expression, and then turned and left. But I didn't want to. Just 2 steps later, I felt my thighs were hugged, looked down, and saw Chu Sheng's longing for love. No, it was the longing for life. Dad, I was wrong. Well, man, it's cheap. I was wrong to hear Chu Sheng's father. Chu Yong couldn't help but sigh. Then he lifted it up and said solemnly, we are all brothers. Since you begged me like this, what do I say? I have to help you, stand by. Look at Lao Zi pretending to force. After speaking, Chu Yong put down Chu Sheng, holding the tools placed in the lobby, and began to do. Ahao, I didn't expect you to sacrifice so much, and I don't know what would happen if Axing and Wenkai heard it. A Fang said with a smirk, holding the jar. What do you want, boy? Chu Sheng said with a smirk when he saw Ahao's face. That means it. Nothing else. A Fang rubbed his fingers and hinted. I see, I will give you the money when I will find the female corpse, but if you collect the benefits, you dare to leak it out. I will definitely hang you up like a master. Chu Sheng said indignantly that this guy was devastated and was just too bullying. Don't make a noise, the altar is already set up, give me a jar. After setting up the altar, seeing Chu Sheng and a Fang still talking, Chu Yong shouted. Oh, brother, give. After hearing Chu Yong's words, a Fang quickly handed the jar in her arms to Chu Yong. After taking the jar, Chu Yong started to do it, but a moment later, it ignited the Kongming lantern. Well, follow the direction that Kongming lanterns are flying. I will not go. Looking at the Kongming lantern flying out of the lobby of Yizhuang, Chu Yong couldn't help facing Chu Sheng and a Fang road. Thank you, little master. The two saw this, and quickly saluted, and then followed the Kongming lantern. Seeing the two leaving, Chu Yang cleaned up the altar and went back to the room. At this time, on the road not far from Renjia town, a group of believers of God were walking. In the early morning, after warming up with Jingjing, Chu Yang planned to go to Jushu to ask how to break through the Jindan period. After a long period of practice, and countless solar energy absorption, Chu Yang's cultivation is getting closer. Jindan, but somehow, Chu Yang felt that there were some restrictions in general, so that he could not touch Jindanchi. Walking to the door of Jushu's room, Chu Yang had not knocked on the door, and a voice came out in the room, "Ayang, come in." Yes, hearing Uncle Ju's words, although Chu Yang was a little surprised, he nodded and then pushed in the door. "Ayang, you came to find a teacher early in the morning, but what's the matter?" Seeing Chu Yang's figure, Jushu couldn't help but smile. "Master, how did you become so young?" Looking at the handsome man in front of him, Chu Yang could not help asking. "Thanks a lot to your spirit. Let me complete the last step of transformation. Now I am a real Jindanchi," Ji Shushu said happily. "Congratulations, Master, enter the Jindan Avenue." After hearing what Juji said, Chu Yang could not help but congratulate. There is no need to be so courteous between the master and the apprentice, but here you are, what problems need to be solved by the master? As the saying goes, everything goes to the temple of the three treasures. Talk to yourself. It's true. Speak to hear, Ju Shu said. The disciples are now as successful as they have reached the foundation, and even close to Jindan infinitely, but one thing is strange. Sometimes I feel very close to the Jindan period, sometimes they are far away. So I asked Master how to break through to Jindanchi. Chu Yang told his uncle Jushu. Originally this is the problem. Anyone who wants to reach Jindan must comprehend his own Tao and then become Tao through Tao. For example, Master, I understand is the right way. Ju Shuman said solemnly. Tao, what is my Tao? After hearing Ju Shu's words, Chu Yang could not help thinking. Ayang, don't think too much, remember a word, the way of nature is natural, when it is time to realize. Seeing Chu Yang musing, Ju Shu could not help but persuade. It's me, Wen Yan said. Chu Yang sighed. If nothing is wrong, Ayang, you'll leave first. You have to retreat for a period of time as a solid practice too. Uncle Ju could not help but issued a guest order. The apprentice resigned. Seeing Ji Shu saying this, Chu Yang could not help but give a gift, then flashed in a moment, closed the door and left. Brother Chu, what are you thinking? Jing Jing looked at Chu Yang looking down and wondered, and asked curiously. Think. Chu Yang smiled lightly. What do you mean? Jing Jing didn't understand Chu Yang's words. I have recently broken through the Golden Dan period, and the Golden Dan period needs to be enlightened. I don't know what to enlighten, so I think here. Chu Yang explained. Wow, Brother Chu, you have reached such a high level. It is amazing, Jing Jing said with admiration. Actually, it's not that I'm great, mainly because I opened a link. What do you mean? Jing Jing was stunned by Chu Yang again. It's not interesting, you little girl always asks east and west, this habit is not good. She gently wiped Jing Jing's nose. Chu Yang smiled with a smile on her face. Then I don't need to ask. Jing Jing flushed. Looking at Jing Jing's lovely appearance, Chu Yang could not help but pull out a set from the system, and smiled evilly. Girl, I suddenly thought of what I should do. What is it? The Artillery King's way. After that, he threw Jing Jing onto the bed. It was another toss, and soon it was noon. Looking at the unconscious Jing Jing underneath, Chu Yang could not help but jumped out of bed and began to put on his clothes. After being dressed for a while, looking at the fragrant sweat, Chu Yang said with a guilty expression, I feel that I am really scum. I just went to sleep and went to find another woman, scum. What? After speaking, looking at the time in the system space, Chu Yang flew away and left. Cafe. After giving some tips to the waiter, Chu Yang headed for the place where he used to date with Ting Ting, but just where he went, he saw a woman dressed in foreign clothes sitting with Ren Ting Ting. Yang brother, you're here. Ren Ting Ting saw Chu Yang's figure and said with a look of joy. Ting Ting, is this? Looking at the woman in front of her, Chu Yang could not help asking. This is Miss Annie who just returned from abroad 2 days ago. I heard she knows a lot of things, so I invited her to communicate. After listening to Chu Yang, Ren Tingting could not help introducing Annie. Hearing Ren Tingting's words, Chu Yang combined with the appearance of the woman in front of her, and suddenly remembered that this big-breasted woman appeared to be the ecstatic one who was engaged by zombies in the original. Hello, presumably you are Mr. Chu mentioned by Miss Ren. Annie stood up and looked at Chu Yang Road with a smile. Yes, I'm Chu Yang, Miss Annie is really pretty. Seeing this, Annie greetings to herself, Chu Yang said. Mr. Chu joked. I don't dare to make jokes, don't stand still, just sit down and talk. After speaking, Chu Yang opened the stool beside Ren Tingting and sat down. Okay, seeing Chu Yang say so, Annie quickly sat down. For the next period of time, with the presence of Annie, Chu Yang and Ren Tingting would not be able to do something too intimate. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, in the evening, after paying the coffee money, Chu Yang took a note from the system space and handed it to Ren Tingting. Yang brother, are you? Looking at the rune paper that Chu Yang handed over, Ren Tingting was puzzled. In the next period of time, there will be great changes. If you bring this amulet, if you are in danger, speak to it, and I will save you. Touching Ren Tingting's face, Chu Yang he said intimately. Then I will collect it. After listening to Chu Yang's words, Ren Tingting couldn't help taking the paper, and put it solemnly in his bag. Mr. Chu, you also believe in religion? Annie saw this and asked him. I don't believe in religion, I only believe in me. Chu Yang shook his head. The one you gave to Miss Ren just now seems to be a Taoist thing. Shui Dao has nothing to do with the channel, right? I'm leaving now, and you should go home earlier. Recently the world is not safe. After explaining something, Chu Yang left. Back to Yizhuang, seeing that Chu Sheng and Alphon had already returned, now sitting on the stone bench in the courtyard, panting, he could not help asking, is everything done? Okay, we ran for a long time with Kong Ming Lantern, only to find the female corpse, bury it, so that the ghost has been reincarnated, and then came back. After Chu Sheng drank, he explained to Chu Yang. That's good, you can't be so naughty next time, or I'll tell you what you called my dad. After hearing Chu Sheng's words, Chu Yang thought and could not help admonishing. Ah, don't, I just settled the scumbag of Alphon so he shouldn't say it. Hey, why did you threaten me like that? Seeing Chu Yang say this, Chu Sheng couldn't help but say in pain. As long as you don't cause trouble in Trouble Master, I will assume that this has never happened. Chu Yang said solemnly. Little Master, rest assured, I will never blame Master again, I guarantee my personality. Chu Sheng said firmly. Do you still have a personality? Little brother, don't believe that stinky kid, ahow, he is the most impersonal. Seeing Chu Sheng as a personal guarantee, Afang could not help breaking down. Afang, you stupid boy, dare to slander me wantonly, believe it or not, I hit you. Seeing Alban slandering himself, Chu Sheng clenched his fists and said angrily. Don't make a noise, otherwise when the master comes out, I will talk to him again and hang you two up. Yes, after hearing Chu Yang's words, Chu Sheng and Alphon stopped fighting, and they were still a little scared of Jushu. Go and cook, I have been in this world for so long, and I haven't seen you two cook. Today, everyone has tasted your craft. After speaking, Chu Yang went straight without looking at the two of them, and went straight back. Room. Cooking. Chu Sheng and Afang were completely aggressive when they heard this. In their memory, Wen Kai and Xiao Yu have always been cooking. They and Ashing were responsible for eating and drinking. Ahao, will you? Afang looked at Chu Sheng and asked. No, will you? Chu Sheng asked back. Ahao, I don't think it's rigorous to reply to you with a few words. Let's just say that, I'm the kind of person in Master's mouth who eats nothing, does nothing, and learns nothing. Alphonse thought about it and said. There's no other way, I can only go to find the text to help. Seeing Alphonse saying this, Chu Sheng could not help sighing. But Wen Kai is unwilling to help, what should I do? Afang thought of Wen Kai's ugly face, and said a little bit worried. Hey, I'll tell him to find a wife after it's done, guess if he will agree. Chu Sheng said with a smirk. Well, let's do it this way. Afang could not help hearing Chu Sheng's plan and clapped his hands with excitement, but half of the shot, he said with some worry, but do you really want to find a wife for Wen Kai? Quote. After it happened, we regretted it. What do I think he would do with me? If Wenkai is really entangled, he will faint and leave it in the pigpen. Chu Sheng said evilly. It's too cruel. After hearing Chu Sheng's words, Alphonse couldn't help but sigh. Non-toxic, no husband, besides Wenkai, this rotten kid, these days, he has been laughing at us, and he should give some lessons. Chu Yong didn't know, because of his reason, an honest man was about to be persecuted by the conspirators. Brother Chu, what you did today is really infuriating. Jing Jing looked at Chu Yong Road with a look of expression. I know it's a little sad, but Ting Ting and I have agreed to go to accompany her at noon, so. Chu Yong said blushing. I'm not saying this. Then what do you mean? Seeing Jing Jing didn't say that, Chu Yong was a little aggressive. That's the thing, you did too much. Jing Jing pointed to her mouth, and then said shamefully. I haven't done that for a long time, so I'm a little excited. Jing Jing, please forgive me. After understanding Jing Jing's words, Chu Yong said awkwardly. At noon, without Jing Jing's consent, he put that thing in his mouth privately, so. I really hate death. Next time you want to do this, I will ignore you. Jing Jing said angrily. Don't be angry, it's bad for you to be angry. I won't do that without asking for your consent next time. Seeing this girl angry with this incident, Chu Yong could not help but smile in comfort. However, although that is the way to say, if you can choose, Chu Yong will still do so. After all, the feeling is incredible. It seems that when the task is completed, back to the real world, you must let Gao Chengshiyina bite herself. Chu Yong couldn't help but meditate in her heart. After chatting with Jing Jing for a while, a convenient came to call Chu Yong and Jing Jing to eat. Sitting at the table, looking at the full-colored and delicious dishes in front of him, Chu Yong praised Chu Sheng. I didn't expect that the masters did more than fist, but there is such cooking, it is really excellent. Of course, my Chu Sheng has always been excellent. Although my mother is not called Shoer like the younger brother's mother, my father is. Dare to ask who is Ling Zun? Chu Yong asked curiously when he heard Chu Sheng's words. My father is Qian Dusho. Chu Sheng said proudly. Disrespectful and disrespectful. After hearing Chu Sheng's words, Chu Yang's mouth could not help but twitched, and the author Nima was too messy. Doen't you want to go funny? Does he have experienced 9 years of compulsory education? He doesn't know if he is forced to be funny and the most deadly. Because Uncle Ju's retreat failed to come to eat, everyone released their hands and feet. After being full, Chu Yong waited for Jing Jing to leave. Chu Sheng, if you said it was done, find me a wife. Don't regret it. When Chu said to Chu Sheng as Chu Yong left. Have I said this? Chu Sheng stood up and said in doubt. Chu Sheng, you stinky boy, you dare to lie to me. After hearing Chu Sheng's words, Wen Kai reacted and said to Chu Sheng angrily. A Fang. Seeing Wen Kai's look of anger, Chu Sheng hurriedly called to a Fang on the side. Alphonse heard that he struck Wen Kai's neck in a hurry. With this blow, Wen Kai fell to the ground and was unconscious. Seeing Wen Kai fell to the ground, a Fang remembered Chu Sheng's words, and hesitated a moment and said, how do we really have to do this with talents? After all, we are all brothers who have been together for more than 10 years. Good brothers are used to make fun, and I also said that if Wen Kai is entangled, he will be stunned and thrown in a pigsty. The man speaks and spit on one nail. This kid is looking for 3 wives. Quote, Chu Sheng said without thinking, and then rushed to the pigpen with a text. Chapter 51. Early morning. Master, you have to decide for me. A huge cry rang through the whole Yizhuang. Brother Chu, this is it, is this? Jing Jing, lying in Chu Yang's arms, was awakened by this voice, and now she couldn't help looking at Chu Yong and said. This is the voice of Wen Kai, you continue to rest first, I'll see how it goes. She patted Jing Jing's cheek, Chu Yong said gently. Then he put on his clothes and came to the lobby in an instant. Looking at the Uncle Ju sitting on the end of the hall, and the 3 talented men, Chu Sheng, and Alphon kneeling on the ground, Chu Yong could not help but say, Master, what happened? I can hear it all in the room. The second brother cried. Quote, well, these 2 incompetent things are so irritating to me. Ju Shu pointed at Chu Sheng and A Fang and said angrily. What else did you 2 do to make Master unhappy? Didn't you promise me, wouldn't you do that again? Seeing Ju Shu scolding Chu Sheng and Alphong angrily, Chu Yong couldn't help but look at it with disappointment. Chu Shengdao. Little master, this time we didn't blame master, just tricked Wenkai. Chu Sheng said helplessly. That's a trick. Throw me into the pigsty and sleep in the pigsty, and let me try to play tricks like that. You have ruined my innocence. Wenkai looked at Chu Sheng, gritted his teeth and said. After speaking, I looked at Uncle Ji again and cried, Master, you have to decide for me. What's the man's husband? Cry. Don't cry, since this is Chu Sheng's behavior, then the teacher will naturally decide for you. Seeing Wenkai crying, Uncle Ju couldn't help but be angry. Later, looking at Chu Sheng and Afang said, you two are out of the ordinary, you just have to make troubles on weekdays. Why would you treat such a fierce hand to the brothers, and if you can't say anything good, you will be hung up. Hit, Jushu said sharply. Master, it's none of my business, it's all the rotten boy, Ahau. As soon as Afang was about to be beaten, he began to shirk his responsibility. Don't say it. Seeing Alphonse go on, he had to shake up his call to Chu Yang's father. Chu Sheng could not help but yell. Alphonse Bei Chu Sheng drank so suddenly, he stopped talking. Seeing Al Fang shut up, Chu Sheng couldn't help looking at Uncle Ji with his head upright and said, Master, this is because the little master helped us solve the female corpse problem. We want to repay the little master and plan to have a good meal. Eating him a bit, but we haven't had much contact with cooking, so we set our goals on Wenkai. In order to let Wenkai agree to help, we put in some tricks, saying that if he helps, he will help him find a wife after all. Of course, this is cheating Wenkai. Alfonso asked me what to do if the matter was only investigated afterwards, and I said, if he pursued it, ignore him, if he entangled me, I would faint him, put him in the pig pen and sleep with the pig. After the incident, Wenkai really entangled us, the manly husband, spitting a nail. In order to be worthy of what I said, I had to stun the scholar and throw it into the pig pen, but I quote, don't say it, Chu Sheng, you lie and lie. Why do you bully and lie? Today, I won't be human if I don't hang you up. Before Chu Sheng's words were finished, Uncle Ju's face was harsh. Said, then took a hemp rope from the ancestor's throne. Master, kill him, and teach this stupid boy a severe meal, so that I can report the deep hatred that I was devastated by the Sao for one night. Wenkai said with a vicious expression as he watched Ju Shu take out the twine. Master, listen to me. Watching Ju Shu take out the twine, Chu Sheng trembled suddenly, his face was pale. Say something to Wenkai. If he promised to bypass you, I will let you go today. Uncle Ju said with a serious look. Wenkai, buddy, I have something to say to you. After hearing what Ju said, Chu Sheng quickly looked at Wenkai with an excitement. I don't listen. Wenkai covered his ears and shook his head vigorously. Wenkai, I said a word when I put you in the pigpen last night. Chu Sheng said loudly to Wenkai while watching Ji Shushu getting closer and closer to himself. That is, after this incident, I promised to find you 3 wives, each of which is no worse than Ren Ting Ting. If you don't believe it, you can ask Alphon. Chu Sheng is telling the truth, I lie to you as a puppy. Alphonse nodded again and again. Master, wait a minute. The original text that covered his ears heard this sentence, and a flash of light flashed in his eyes, and he quickly called to Uncle Ju. After hearing Wenkai's words, Uncle Ju immediately stopped binding Chu Sheng. Smelly boy, are you telling the truth this time? Wenkai looked at Chu Sheng with disbelief. Manly husband, spit and nail, I Chu Sheng swear to the sky, if you dare to lie to you this time, you must be thunderous. Seeing a play, Chu Sheng quickly stated. That's what you said, I forgive you, master, bypass him. Wenkai saw Chu's ecology so sincere and couldn't help but say. Call. Seeing Wenkai say so, Chu Sheng was relieved. Well then, now that Wenkai promises to let you go, I'll go around. Jushu saw Wenkai bypassing Chu Sheng, and lost the interest of Chu Sheng, and said quickly, but didn't want to finish the conversation. Master, you just said that if you don't hang up the big brother and fight, you are not human. I think you should educate him for your face. Seeing Ju Shu going to give up whipping Chu Sheng, Chu Yang said with a playful expression. Little brother, you are so poisonous. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Chu Sheng only felt that he had just landed in heaven, and now he would fall into hell. Iang. Uncle Ju didn't want to teach Chu Sheng, he couldn't help but glance at Chu Yang. Master, Chu Sheng's talent is not weak, but he doesn't like to practice. Instead, he always gives you trouble. You should slap him appropriately, tell him to remember something, what should be done, and what should not be done. Now if you let him go, you are hurting him. Seeing Jushu beating reluctantly, Chu Yang could not help but show affection. He reasoned and said a lot of things to Jushu. Ayang, you're right, letting him go is harming him. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Jushu nodded with satisfaction, then looked at Chu Sheng and said, I haven't hanged you for a long time. Now, have another meal today. Remember this is for you. Quote, Master, can I not do this? Seeing Jushu beating himself again, Chu Sheng said in shock and in fear. No. Then, Jushu hung Chu Sheng, took out his ancestral whip, and whipped it up. Ah, 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 screamed loudly, ringing through Yizhuang. Too cruel. Looking at this scene, Chu Yang couldn't help but sigh. The Wenkai and Alphon beside them heard Chu Yang's words, their mouths twitched a few times. In the courtyard, Uncle Ju and Chu Yang are walking side by side. Ayang, for my teacher, I feel that my life is really a failure. Collecting 4 or 5 accounts has made me worry a lot. Fortunately, God has eyes and sent you to my door. It is a blessing for 3 lives. Uncle Ju remembered his disciples who were incomparable to Chu Sheng and Wen Kai, and couldn't help but sigh. Master does not have to degrade them like this. Although they are bad, they are very good. Chu Yang couldn't help but say with a smile. They also shot on character. Jushu nodded and suddenly nodded. He had clear advantages and disadvantages of the disciples. After listening to the words of Uncle Ju, Chu Yang didn't speak, just looked at Uncle Ju calmly. Ayang, for the teacher, I want to leave Yizhuang and live in Daotang in the town for a few days. What do you think? Jushu could not help but ask Chu Yang and asked. Brother Axing and sister Xiaoyu have been there for a while, I think Master should go with them for a while and accompany them. Seeing Jishu asking himself about this, Chu Yang could not help but say. Since you say so, I will go to live in the town hall. To be honest, I have NP'd in the church for a few days, and I am a little accustomed to it. After listening to Chu Yang's words, Uncle Ju thought and decided calm down. Master, you have become a lot younger now. I think I should dress up and go to the town, otherwise it will scare people. Seeing Ju Shu decide, Chu Yang could not help but suggest. That's not necessary, just use a little trick. Ju Shu said with a smile, and then drew a trick. Nothing changed. Looking at Ju Shu still young, Chu Yang frowned. For people like you who have a good foundation, nothing has changed, but among others, it's different. Ju Shu explained. That's it. After listening to the explanation of Jeju, Chu Yang could not help but realize. I'm gone, Ayang. In the past few days, help me be optimistic about Wenkai, Afang, and the little zombies. After being ordered by Uncle Ju, he walked towards the gate. When Chu Ju left, Chu Yang planned to turn around and return to the room, but before walking a few steps, he was stopped by Chu Sheng who was holding his waist. Little master, since you worshipped, Chu Sheng has never asked me to tease you, so you can say that there is no injustice between you and me, but why do you have to let master clean up me every time? Chu Sheng looked at Chu Yang, his face was full of inquiries. Originally, Chu Yangjin made a confession to Jushu for a while. Chu Sheng was planning to admit it, but after lying back to the room for a long time, the more he thought about it, the more he got upset. He called up the courage to ask Chu Yang what. I will leave after a while, and I may never come back. Master has been so painstakingly teaching you all these years, I hope you are good, but you all do'n't take it seriously, you are tricking me every day, he even makes trouble for master sometimes. Especially for you, my brother, I do'n't have any responsibility for you. In order for you to grow up, I can only let the master clean up when you make a mistake. It is called filial piety under the stick, and kicks out the talents. Seeing Chu Sheng asked why he was always targeting him, Chu Yang couldn't help but say it carefully. Little master, I understand. I will be a good brother and a good disciple in the future. After hearing what Chu Yang said, Chu Sheng couldn't help but say. It's good to understand, you are not too young, you are all in your 20s. After hearing Chu Sheng's words, Chu Yang patted his shoulder and said with relief. Here are some of these spirit stones. Go back to practice. This hurts faster. After taking out some of the spirit stones and handing them to Chu Sheng, Chu Yang left. Little master. Seeing Chu Yang's departure, Chu Sheng couldn't help whispering, and then took the spirit stone back to the room to practice. For the next 2 days, Chu Yang was either spending time with Jingjing or dating Tingting Ren, and her life was leisurely. At noon that day, Chu Yangjung was chatting with Ren Tingting. Suddenly, a bell rang. Hearing the bell, Chu Yang could not help but cast his eyes in the direction of the church, and found that there was a crowd of people there, including a priest and the same as in the original. Now he could not help but silently say, "The plot has finally started." Quote, "What's wrong, Brother Yang?" After seeing the bell, Chu Yang kept staring at the direction of the church. Ren Tingting asked curiously. "The church opened," Chu Yang said calmly. "The church is open, then I have to donate money." After listening to Chu Yang, Ren Tingting said anxiously, Tingting, are you a believer?" Looking at Ren Tingting a little anxious, Chu Yang said in surprise. "No, it's just that Annie came to visit me last night and said that when the church reopens, I hope I will donate some money." Ren Tingting explained. "Then I'll take a trip with you." After hearing Tingting Ren, Chu Yang could not help but say, "Ha." Ren Tingting nodded, then paid, and went to the church with Chu Yang. "There are so many people here. It seems that there are many Catholics." Looking at the dense crowd in front of the church, Ren Tingting exclaimed. Looking at this scene, Chu Yang didn't speak, but he felt inexplicably sad. He once asked his friends how to make everyone like a dragon, and the friends said that as long as there is no foolish people in the world, everyone will be like a dragon. Whenever Chinese people are pursuing foreign religions for spiritual comfort, how many people have believed in the native religion that is really good for them? Whenever Huasha is about to fall in the building, the foreign religions are all closed to self-defense. Only the native religions can go down the mountain with their swords, save lives, and turn the tide. Although Chu Yang does not believe in religion, he has a pity for Taoism. Such a religion that serves the people, even if it dies without regret, is disgusted and disgusted. Put a 3-foot sword on your back, save your life from renunciation, cut off all injustices, and kill all injustices. Thinking of those stories that have been recorded in the world and word of mouth Taoism taught that the Shanbang mansion will fall, Chu Yang couldn't help thinking about it. "Brother Yang, what's wrong with you? Miss Annie is telling us to pass." Seeing Chu Yang's mouth saying something, the whole person was a bit wrong, Ren Tingting could not help but call. "Ding! Congratulations to the host Mingwu Daoshan. Cut off all injustice, kill all offenders." Ha! After hearing the sound from the system, Chu Yang suddenly sobered up, watching Ren Tingting calling to herself, and couldn't help laughing. "What's wrong?" "It's okay if you're okay. I thought you had something wrong. Miss Annie is calling us over." Seeing that Chu Yang was okay, Ren Tingting could not help but let out a sigh, and then pointed at the Annie waving to them both. "Since Annie calls us, let's go over," Chu Yang said. "Ha!" Ren Tingting nodded slightly, then took Chu Yang's arm and walked to Annie. "Miss Ren, Mr. Chu, how are you?" Looking at the figures of Chu Yang and Ren Tingting, Annie said with a smile. "Annie, where is the money to be donated?" "Is this box?" Ren Tingting took out a stack of banknotes from the bag and pointed at the box and asked. "Yes, it's in the donation box." Seeing Ren Tingting asking, Annie quickly answered. Ren Tingting was instructed and immediately put the money in a donation box. "Miss Ren, you are really beautiful and kind. May the Lord bless you," Annie said with a smile. "After you donate, let's go." Seeing Ren Tingting had donated the money, Chu Yang could not help but suddenly said, he thought it was better to pull Ren Tingting away from this ardent Catholic, lest. "Ah, Mr. Chu, don't you donate?" Hearing Chu Yang's words, Annie couldn't help asking. "I don't believe in God, thank you." After that, Chu Yang took Ren Tingting away. What a weird person. Even such a god is not convinced. Looking at the back of Chu Yang leaving, Annie couldn't help saying something, and then began to solicit donations. "Little brother, why are you here? Shouldn't you be guarding Yizhuang?" When Chu Yang and Ren Tingting were about to leave, a voice came from behind. Chu Yang suddenly turned back and saw Xing and Xiao Yu. Seeing that they were looking at themselves curiously, they could not help but salute. "Have met Sister Xiao Yu, Brother Ni Xing." "You and my brother, there is no need for so many courtesies. Just what are you doing here? Is it possible to come here for the fun? Axing asked. I only accompany Ting Ting to donate. Chu Yang replied. Donate. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Axing suddenly felt a little aggressive, and then he turned his attention to Annie, who was soliciting donors, and watched others donate money to the box, and then he got a kiss from Annie. Excited, I hurriedly paid for it, and went up. Looking at Axing's move, Chu Yang was not surprised. As a person who has read the original book, Chu Yang knew that Axing liked Annie in particular, and even finally became a vampire because of Annie. Little brother, you've all come to town, or you won't return to Yizhuang tonight, go live in Daotang. Xiaoyu looked at Chu Yang and said with a crimson expression. Thank you, Xiaoyu, for your kindness, but Jingjing is still in Yizhuang, I'm a bit uneasy. After hearing Xiaoyu's words, Chu Yang refused to think about it. After all, Jingjing was still in Yizhuang and she had to accompany him. She was. Who is Jingjing? Seeing Chu Yang mention Jingjing, Xiaoyu said suddenly, a little puzzled. Jingjing is my wife. Seeing Xiaoyu asking about this, Chu Yang thought about it and said. So it was. When Chu Yang heard another wife, Xiaoyu's mood suddenly fell to the bottom. Sister, are you okay? Seeing Xiaoyu's mood was not right, Chu Yang could not help but comfort. I'm fine. Master hasn't eaten yet. I have to cook for him. After listening to Chu Yang, Xiaoyu quickly said, and then trot away. Brother Yang, your sister likes you. Ren Tingting looked at the departing Xiaoyu and said. Okay, I know. Then why are you? After listening to Chu Yang, Ren Tingting was puzzled. I don't want to harm such a good woman. Chu Yang thought for a while and said, always looking at his own scene when he thought of Xiaoyu's hot meal for himself, Chu Yang's face was full of complexities. Xiaoyu, the Uncle Ju, who heard the sound, watched Xiaoyu passing by himself, and could not help but cry. But Xiaoyu couldn't hear anything at this time. When she saw her uncle call herself, she didn't respond, just speeded up and went back to the temple. What happened to this ghost girl? Why doesn't it look so good? Seeing Xiaoyu ignoring himself, she kept running away. Ju Shu couldn't help but curiously. At this time, Axing returned. His face was very ugly, remembering that he had invested money, but did not get a kiss from Annie, and his heart was a little unhappy. Looking back at those who donate now, they all got Annie's kiss. Now they can't help but borrow and then donate. Little brother, Xiaoyu, do you know where this girl has gone? After looking around, after seeing Xiaoyu's figure, Axing couldn't help looking at Chuyang Road. Sister Xiaoyu has already returned to Daotang. Do you have any questions with her? Chu Yang said blankly. There is something, it is a lifelong event, but now Xiaoyu has left, then I can only ask for help from the younger master. Axing said flatteringly. Do you want to donate money to pick up girls? Chu Yang asked without thinking. Well, you little brother, do you understand me? Did you see that Annie? It's a stunner in the world, so. Axing said with a smirk on his face. How much? It would cost 500. Axing thought for a while. Take it, get out of here. Passing the money to Axing, Chu Yang drove away. Little brother, I'll pay you back. Then, Axing ran away to Annie. Ayang, do you know what happened to Xiaoyu? Why did you run away and leave? Even I shouldn't. Uncle Ju came up, facing Chuyang Road. Master, Uncle Ju. Seeing Ju Shu's figure, Chuyang and Ren Tingting saluted quickly. No need to salute, do you know what happened to Xiaoyu? I blame me. Chuyang sighed and told how he was angry with Xiaoyu. Well, you kid really do. After hearing Chuyang tell the whole process, Ju Shu didn't know what to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to Sister Xiaoyu later to communicate. If she doesn't mind, I'm married. Chu Yang thought for a while and said. At this time, it seemed that Uncle Ju saw something and quickly walked over and shouted, What are you doing? This church cannot be reopened. The monk in charge of tearing down the door heard this and immediately stopped. He turned his attention to Brother Wu with his white hair. Brother Wu quickly waved his hand to indicate a pause, and then came to the Uncle Ju. Chu Yang saw Uncle Nine walked over and scolded Brother Wu to reopen the church. Now he couldn't help pulling Ren Tingting's hand and followed him. David, the son of the mayor who presided over the crowd, saw this, flashing a strange color in his eyes, and then went up. Sorry, this is Brother Wu, from the Vatican. Brother Wu with white hair saluted to Ju Shu. I've only heard of Jingyangang and Wollongong. I haven't heard of the Vatican. Let's say, who told you to reopen the church? After hearing what Brother Wu had said, Uncle Ju frowned. Father, this is Uncle Ju. David, the son of the mayor who caught up at this time, introduced the Uncle Ju to Brother Wu. Uncle Ju, Unclellan, LC, Uncleaning. Uncle Ju, LC, I see. Hearing David's introduction, Brother Wu couldn't help but smile at Uncle Ju with a smile. Due to some problems of Chinese and Western languages, LC was heard by my Uncle Ju die. Death is your family's business. If the church reopens, everyone in the town will die. Say it, whoever told you to reopen the church, I will go to him and explain the truth. It was not difficult to embarrass him, so he planned to ask him who asked him to reopen the church. In the name of God. Brother Wu said piously. God. Jushu was aggressive. Master, God is my God, personally. Seeing Jushu's face aggravated, Chu Yong could not help reminding him, but before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Jushu. I saw Jushu heard the first half of Chu Yang's words, and immediately felt deceived, and quickly angrily addressed to Brother Wu, dog selling. Are you talking about the dog selling in the street? There is such a great right for you to open a church. Quote. As soon as Uncle Ju's remarks came out, the surrounding religions looked at Uncle Ju with a different look. I believe that if it wasn't for Ju's prestige in the town, and if he had refined his methods, it is estimated that many believers would have come up and beat him. Master, my God means God, God. Seeing Jushu misunderstood, Chu Yong could not help reminding again. Iang, don't interrupt yourself as a teacher. Today I will ask the old man for the mastermind and ask for advice. Seeing Chu Yong speak again, Jushu could not help but wave his hands. Uncle Nine, you have misunderstood. Father means that this church was reopened by God. David saw Brother Wu falling, and immediately came out and explained. I don't care what sells dogs and cats. In short, the church cannot be opened, and people in the town will be in danger. Jishu said with a firm face. When Annie saw the scene making this situation, she couldn't help blinking at her father. When Annie's father saw this, he had to come up and persuade him, Uncle Nine, this place is a public place. Father is going to reopen the church. You refuse, then we can't help but go to the mayor to preside over justice. What do you think? Okay. Father Annie also had some prestige in town. After listening to his words, Uncle Ju nodded and said. Then everyone went to the mayor's house. Ting Ting, are you going home or going to see the excitement with me? Seeing that everyone had gone to the church, Chu Yong could not help but look back and looked at Ren Ting Ting. I won't see you when I go home. I want to go live with you. Ren Ting Ting smiled slightly. Let's go. Then, Chu Yong quickly moved to the mayor's house with Ren Ting Ting. When he arrived, Chu Yong met Jushu and Axing, and then followed him. Dad, it seemed that Ren Ting Ting saw Ren Fa and hurriedly greeted. Ting Ting, why are you here too? Ren Fa heard the familiar voice and suddenly looked at Ren Ting Ting. Brother Yang brought me. Ren Ting Ting pointed at Chu Yong, who was standing next to Jishu, and said. This is Ting Ting. Are they so big? The mayor sitting next to Ren Fa looked at Ren Ting Ting, and couldn't help but gleam in front of his eyes. Yeah, it's so big, I expect to marry in a few days. Ren Fa said with a smile. Master Ren, my son David, a talent, it would be better. The mayor pointed to the David around him and said to Ren Fa. David looked at Ren Ting Ting's peerless beauty, but felt his heart tremble and wanted to take it as his own. Author, brother, the idea is no good, I will not speak in his firm also arrogant than you have now admitted to the hospital, and I said, just to have a trace of unnatural Ren Ting Ting, I would like to bring out of line and it was the protagonist presses on the keyboard, if you want to believe it, please see the beginning. Sorry, Ting Ting already has a boyfriend, let's not talk about it, just talk about business. Ren Fa refused without thinking. It's a pity, the mayor said unfortunately. Dad, let's talk, I went to Brother Yang. After Ren Ting Ting waved, he ran to Chu Yang. Soon people were together. Uncle Ju looked around and sat down. Suddenly, Chu Yang seemed to remember something, and he quickly grabbed Uncle Ju. Iang, what are you doing? Being caught by Chu Yang, Uncle Ju said curiously. There is something in the position behind you. Chu Yong picked up the note placed behind Uncle Ju. Looking at the note reads, "My lord is almighty." Jushu suddenly angry. "I don't know which villain, how dare to tease me." Then he shredded the note. The Annie in the distance looked at all this, and couldn't help but glanced at Chu Yong. Seeing Annie's gaze, Chu Yong could not help but smile back. "Since the fellow fathers and uncles and brothers and uncles are here, let me just talk briefly. As the mayor of Renjajun, I have the right to contribute to the prosperity of Renjajun." The town mayor was almost there, so he stood up and began to mutter. "Western Jets. It's not a plane, it's a typewriter." Seeing his father misread it, David could not help reminding. "Yes, there is a typewriter." Seeing his son remind him, the mayor could not help correcting the path. Seeing that it was almost time to support Beibu, Annie couldn't help blinking at Ashing beside Chu Yong. Seeing Annie calling himself, Ashing looked at Jushu and Chu Yong at the moment and planned to sneak over. "Brother Axing." Seeing Axing's small movement, Chu Yong could not help but say, "Huh." After hearing Chu Yang's words, Uncle Ju couldn't help looking at Ashing, and saw Ashing going to leave his team and run to the other side. "Axing, Master's hands have itchy recently." Jishu rubbed his hands and said murderously, "Master, forgive me." Seeing this, Ashing couldn't help but kneel down and ask for forgiveness. "In order to promote economic prosperity, let everyone have money to earn, and money to take. According to the meaning of my son's paper." The mayor took out a note. "It's based on what you mean." Seeing his dad talk about it again, David couldn't help but grab the note and said, "Yes, according to what I mean, my lord will reopen the church. Now everyone is voting to vote." The mayor smiled and looked at the crowd and said, "We agree." Hearing the mayor's words, everyone quickly lifted the cloth. "We don't agree." Seeing everyone agreed, Uncle Ju couldn't help but stand up against. "There are only 4 of you, so many of us, you can't help but disagree." The mayor smiled proudly. "I don't agree." Master Ren saw that Jushu didn't agree with this matter, and he couldn't help but stand up and said, "Master Ren, this is..." Hearing Ren Fa, the mayor's face suddenly seemed difficult. "Master Ren, are you planning to become rich by yourself? Will you not let the folks get rich? Opening the church will benefit everyone." I didn't know who it was, and suddenly said, "Chu Fu, no matter what era." "Master Ren, you don't really do that." "Master Ren, I heard that Ren Fa had burned his father's body for others for money." "Master Ren." After hearing this paragraph, Ren Fa was a little angry and was about to speak. "Master Ren, go back with Ting Ting. Don't worry about this." Chu Yong said. I don't care anymore." After hearing Chu Yang's words, Ren Fa could not help but say coldly, and when he left with his servant and Ren Ting Ting, he invited Chu Yong to be a guest. I don't care anymore. Iang, Axing, let's go." Seeing everyone's ugly face, Jushu couldn't help angrily, and then left with Chu Yong and Axing. On the way back, watching Uncle Ju with a cold face, he said nothing. Chu Yong could not help saying, "Master, don't worry, if the thing in the church comes out, I will deal with it, and I will not let him hurt anyone casually." Yong, that thing is not simple. Judging by the breath I feel, it is at least the middle and late existence of Jaden. So for so many years, I will come to pee and weaken his breath almost as long as I have time. It made his breath hurt the people around him. Uncle Ju thought of the evil breath from the church and sighed. "So, is this the reason for you, Master, to urinate anywhere?" Chu Yong frowned as he heard what Uncle Ju said. "Yong, give me a reason not to beat you as a teacher." After hearing what Chu Yong said, Ju Shu couldn't help raising his fist and watching Chu Yong said, "Your hand will break," Chu Yong said without thinking. "Well, that reason is okay," Ji Shu said with a serious face, and then released his clenched fist. "Master, it's me who is here to make fun of you." "Don't care." Afraid that Jushu would be angry, Chu Yong could not help but comfort. "Iang, why do you always say something inexplicable sometimes?" Uncle Ju didn't understand Chu Yang's words a little, so he asked. "Don't care about these details." Seeing Jushu asking about this, Chu Yong said lightly, Forget it, do you want to go to Daotang with us, or go to Yizhuang to accompany Jingjing?" Jishu asked. "Master, who is Jingjing?" Axing asked curiously when Uncle Ju heard such a strange name. Ayang's second daughter-in-law. Seeing Axing ask this question, Zhu Shu answered it without thinking. What? The second daughter-in-law? Hearing Uncle Zhu, Axing said in shock. Master, even the church in the town has reopened, so I better stay with you in the church, so that I can deal with that demon in the first place. Chu Yong thought for a moment and then said. That's good. With your ability and the channel method as a teacher, that demon has no chance to do evil. Seeing Chu Yong say this, Zhu Shu could not help but smile. Master, since this is the case, then you go back to the temple first. I'll buy some food back to Yizhuang, and then come to you. After that, Chu Yong went to the food stall. Let's go back to Daotang first. Seeing Chu Yong leaving, Zhu Shu couldn't help but look at Ashing. Master, can you let me worship Ayang? Of course, I will not betray you. Axing looked at Uncle Ji, and said with some trembling. Master is a very open-minded person. If you feel that UCAN teach you something for a teacher, then you can worship Ayang as a teacher. There is an apprentice. Hearing Axing's words, Uncle Ju couldn't help but say in amazement. Thank you, Master, thank you. Seeing Ji Shu saying this, Ashing said with excitement. Ah, wait, what do you want to learn by worshipping Ayang as a teacher? Seeing Azing's expression of excitement, Uncle Ji could not help but inquired curiously. Pick up girl, Ashing said without thinking or thinking, but as soon as he said something, he regretted. Ashing, Master's fist hasn't hit anyone for a long time, and it's rusted. Do you see any solution? Ji Shu raised his fist and looked at Ashing Dao coldly. Master, my fist is rusty. I am an expert. I have a special solution. First of all, I need to wash my hands with clean water, bake them with high heat, and then cut off the extra nails. Ashing swallowed later, he said tremblingly. I don't want to listen to nonsense, let's just talk. Hearing Axing pulled such a long paragraph, Uncle Ju frowned and said. Don't smack, Axing said desperately. Master won't hit your face with your hands. Ji Shu said with a serious face, and then punched him in the direction of Axing. Ah, 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 the heartbreaking sounds spread all over the streets and alleys. It was really awkward to hear and happy to see. After buying the food Huaizhuang, saying hello to Jingjing, and letting her practice well, Chu Yong came to the Daotang opened by Zhu Shu in the town. As soon as he entered the door, Chu Yong saw Uncle Ju, Xiaoyu, and Ashing, who was bruised and swollen. Little master, I'll get you the chopsticks. Xiaoyu said happily when he saw Chu Yang's face, and then he walked towards the kitchen without waiting for Chu Yang's reply. Looking at Xiaoyu's behavior, Chu Yong had to smile bitterly. Don't stand, come sit and eat. Seeing Chu Yong still standing stupidly, Zhu Shu couldn't help but greet. Yes, master. Seeing Zhu Shu calling to himself, Chu Yong could not help but salute, then walked to the dining table and sat down. Brother Axing, what's going on with your face? I remember when I left, was it okay? Looking at Axing with a nasty and swollen face, Chu Yong asked curiously. Isn't it hit by master? He said he won't hit his face anymore, he still hit him. Ashing said bitterly. I said I didn't use my hand to beat my face, but I didn't say I didn't need to hit my face, and you can't call me master now. You said you want to worship under the Ayangman, so you have to call me grandpa now. Hearing Axing's words, Uncle Ju could not help but say solemnly. Master, this is what you said. Let's sever the relationship between the master and the apprentice today and wait for me to succeed under the Ayangman. I must stand in front of you, sneer at you, and let you lift the car. Thousands of gold begged me to go back to be an apprentice. Seeing Zhu Shu saying this, Ashing couldn't help but say. Then he turned his eyes to Chu Yong and said, Ayang, please accept me as a disciple, and let me follow your skills. How can I have any skills? Except for my superpowers, all my skills are taught by the master. Chu Yong said with a puzzled expression when he heard Azing's words. No, you have, for example, the ability to pick up girls. You now have 2 wives. This is the best proof. Axing said involuntarily. Are you rich? Are you handsome? Are you capable? How old are you? Seeing Axing talking about the word, Piao Niu, Chu Yong asked with a serious face. Hearing Chu Yang's words, Ashing couldn't help pulling up his pants and shoving inside, then shook his head and said, Yang, I didn't have any of these. Then you still learn wool from me. Don't hurry up and ask master for forgiveness. I have cut off the relationship between the master and the apprentice with master, how can I ask him to forgive me? Even if Ni Xing is dead, I don't ask. After hearing Chu Yang's words, A Xing thought for a moment, and he was absolutely determined. Say. Oh, what does that have to do with me? Even if you do, I won't accept you as a disciple. Looking at the staring look of A Xing, Chu Yang waved his hands. Tong tong. Seeing Chu Yang say this, A Xing couldn't help but kneel suddenly. Little brother, the tableware is here. Xiaoyu came out of the kitchen with the tableware, but didn't want to see this scene. Now he curiously asked, Brother Axing, why are you kneeling in front of Master? Master, I was wrong. Please forgive the disciples for being momentary and unrestrained. I regretted my career. I remembered punching and kicking an hour ago. It was Master's caressing to me, in the eyes of A Xing, tears full of remorse. I remember that you seemed to say just now that you will succeed at school. Be sure to stand in front of me and ridicule me so that I can lift the limousine and ask you to come back to be an apprentice, right? Uncle Ji put down the tableware and said blankly. No, Master, that's actually not what I said. You said that everyone who practices spirituality has a demon, and the words just now are actually what my demon said, and he did it to make our relationship between teachers and disciples unconnected. And, A Xing wiped away the tears in his eyes and pushed everything onto the demon. Oh, it turned out that, I didn't expect you to be poisoned by the demon, but don't worry, you can teach me how to master the demon. Hearing Axing's words, Uncle Ju couldn't help smiling grimly. Rode. Then stood up, pulled A Xing into a room, closed the door, and began to implement the treatment plan. Master, I was wrong, I never dared again. A Xing screamed again and again. Chu Yang, who knew everything with perspective eyes, couldn't help tears. Little brother, why are your eyes full of tears? Looking at Chu Yang's eyes full of tears, Xiaoyu suddenly felt strange. Why are there tears in my eyes? That's because I can't help but laugh out loud and feel uncomfortable. Chu Yang looked at Xiaoyu, full of uncomfortable words. After eating well, Jushu also learned from Axing. Looking at Axing's face like a pig's head, Chu Yang didn't know what to say. He patted him on the shoulder and went to see Jushu. At this time, Uncle Ju was in the hall of Daotang, offering incense to his ancestor. Master, since Brother Axing has also cared for you, have you forgiven him? Chu Yang remembered Axing's pig head and asked him. Naturally, forgive me. After all, I have been a teacher and apprentice for so many years. It is impossible to say that I will sever it. After Uncle Ju Shang inserted it, he sighed. Master's words are extremely true. After hearing Ji Shu's words, Chu Yang nodded. And Chu Yanggang just finished speaking, a piano sound and singing voice immediately came out from the direction of the church. This is, from the church. Jushu heard the piano and singing, his face suddenly looked gloomily toward Chu Yang Road. It's from the church. Seeing Jushu asking, Chu Yang could not help but say. Okay, I didn't expect to just reopen the church. This foreigner is so mad, it seems that it is necessary for the teacher to destroy his power. Hearing Chu Yang's words, Uncle Ju went upstairs to get equipment. A Xing, Xiaoyu, come to get the guy, go to the door of the church and you will meet the foreigner. Uncle Ju holding Suona and gongs and Pippa called A Xing and Satsuki. Master, I'm here. After hearing what Ju Ji said, A Xing hurried to the hall and took a gong and drum from Ju Ji. Master, can't I go? Xiaoyu glanced at Chu Yang and said unwillingly to Uncle Ju. No, but rest assured, if you like Yang and don't care about how many women are around him, I will match you with him as a teacher. Ji Shu said with a serious face. Master, what are you talking about? Little Master is still here. Hearing Uncle Ju, Xiaoyu glanced at Chu Yang, and then said blushingly. Okay, don't be a demon, Yang knows you like him long ago, but I'm afraid you don't mind if he has a bunch of daughter-in-law things, so he has been hesitating to accept you. Seeing Xiaoyu's face blushing, Uncle Ju could not help but say. Little brother, I don't mind if you have a bunch of wives, as long as you are good to me. Wen Yan, Xiaoyu suddenly looked at Chu Yang, and said affectionately. As long as you don't betray me, I promise you forever. Chu Yang said with a smile. Okay. Two unmanned men are still here. Seeing the two talking about love, Uncle Ju couldn't help but said badly. Quote. Hearing Ji Shu's words, Chu Yong and Xiao Yu didn't speak at all. See, the two no longer show affection. Uncle Ju could not help throwing the pipa to Xiao Yu, and then walked towards the church with a shing. Little brother, I'm leaving, Xiao Yu said with a pipa, looking at Chu Yong with a look of dismay. Come on, otherwise master should be in a hurry. Chu Yong looked at the Uncle Ju, who was approaching the church door, and could not help but say. Then I'm leaving. After hearing Chu Yang's words, Xiao Yu hurriedly carried up the pipa and chased up. Watching Xiao Yu's departure, Chu Yong knew that the next plot was that Ju Shu and others played a tune that would only be played at the banquet of the dead to counter the piano sounds and religious songs sung by the church. In order to avoid suffering the ears, Chu Yong quickly controlled the ears and temporarily lost hearing. After half an hour, the three uncles came back. Looking at the anger on the face of Uncle Ju, Chu Yong said a little puzzled, Master, what's wrong with you, aren't you angry? Why, you look so popular. Quote. After all, in the original book, Uncle Ju blowing the Suona against the church monks this time, but he came back with a victory. According to the truth, it should be happy now. Not to mention, we all blame Xiao Yu for this stupid girl. We went to the funeral to listen to the foreigner, but she did a good job. I changed Lao Su from the funeral to Tianxian, which made me ridicule. The birds on the tree are in pairs, and I still have anger in my heart. Seeing Chu Yong asking about this, Ju Shu couldn't help looking at Xiao Yu with her head down, and then gritted her teeth and said, Master, I'm sorry, everyone was full of young masters at the time, so I couldn't help but sing the match of Tianxian while playing. Seeing the Uncle Ju Sheng's atmosphere, Xiao Yu said suddenly with guilt, Master, lose your face. Anyway, Chu Yong thought for a moment and comforted. Iang, you continue to say. Anyway, what? After hearing Chu Yong said, Jishu could not help asking. I didn't lose me anyway. Chu Yong smiled and smiled. Quote. Iang, at that moment, I really wanted to draw it in the ear. Ji Shu looked at Chu Yong rode sincerely. Fortunately, you didn't pump, or your arm would break again. By then, after hearing what Uncle Ju said, Chu Yong could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Just know that you care about Master. After hearing what Chu Yong said, Uncle Ju couldn't help expressing comfort. Master, don't interrupt me, okay, I haven't finished talking. I am fortunate that you didn't smoke, otherwise your arm will break, and then I will pay for your illness and annoy me. Seeing the relief of Ju Shu's face, Chu Yong could not help adding. Iang, I really want to kill you as a teacher. Uncle Ju clenched his fists with both hands, and said with bluntness. Master, don't be angry. Little brother, apologize to Master. Seeing Chu Yang's words made Ji Shu a little angry, Xiao Yu could not help comforting Ji Shu while calling Chu Yong to apologize. Xiao Yu, don't you persuade me, do you forget the time when you moved to the grave of Ren's family? Master punched heavily on the younger master. As a result, the younger master was fine. Instead, his hand was broken for several days. Don't worry, Master can't move the little master. A Xing, who was watching the movie, saw that Xiao Yu was stopping the two, and he couldn't help but say. Unexpectedly, as soon as the words came out, he was stared at by a pair of devil eyes. A Xing, the teacher urgently needs a discourage bucket, do you understand? Ji Shu looked at a Xingdao with a smile. Master, don't do it. I'm not hurt yet. Seeing Ju Shu preparing to use himself as a punching bag, a Xing suddenly said in pain. No, Uncle Ju shook his head. My mother, why am I hurt every time? Later, he was brought into the room by Uncle Ju and beaten. In the attic, Ju Shu and Chu Yong leaned on the fence, watching the sunset and the mountains in the distance. Iang, why is your kid so angry with me this time? I feel that you are not angry with me and you feel uncomfortable. Uncle Juyin took a puff and looked at Chu Yong Road. I don't know if I will get angry at you in the future, so I'm angry now. Seeing Ju Shu talking about this, Chu Yong said with a smile. Iang, are you going to die? Hearing Chu Yang's words, Uncle Ju said inexplicably sadly. Why is Shent dying? Seeing Ju Shu saying he was dying, Chu Yang's mouth twitched and said lightly. Not to die. Then why do you say that I will not be mad at me in the future? Although there are banquets all over the world, there will still be a chance to see you in the future. Ju Shu asked in a puzzled manner. It's complicated to say, but maybe I won't be able to meet again in the future. I'm mad at you just to let you remember me. I remember that a kid named Chu Yong had angered you in those years. Chu Yong said with a smile against the breeze. My apprentice, I all remember, I will never forget it, even 10 years, 100 years later. Ji Shu said with a serious face. After smoking the whole hand, he couldn't help but said, this foreign stuff is exciting and smokes well, but it always feels a little less, I don't know when I can smoke in China. Master, the mayor's son sent someone to invite you to dinner. A Xing's voice came from downstairs. Where to eat? Although Uncle Ji was a little puzzled, he asked aloud. Fenglai Restaurant. Axing thought for a while and then replied. Iang, are you going to lie down with me? After hearing Axing's words, Uncle Ju could not help but set his sights on Chuyang. Master, go for yourself. I'll stay with my sister in Daotang. Chuyang knew the plot of this meal, and was too boring, so he had to refuse. Well then, I and Axing have gone. Seeing Chuyang say this, Juji could not help but sigh, and then went downstairs. Master, go in a robe. Lest you have to run back. Watching Uncle Ju downstairs, Chuyang called out. Okay, although I don't know why Chuyang said this, Uncle Ju did. Going downstairs, I went to the accommodation that Jishu had arranged for myself. Chuyang could not help but bumped into Xiaoyu. Seeing that she was making the bed for herself, she smiled and said, Sister, you have worked hard. Ah, little master. Hearing Chuyang's voice, Xiaoyu could not help but turn to look at Chuyang, and said blushingly. Why are you always shy at every turn? Chuyang blinked, taking it into his arms, and said with a wicked look. Seeing being embraced by Chuyang, Jing's face instantly dripped with blood, speechless. Sister. Looking at Xiaoyu's delicate cheeks and pink lips, Chuyang couldn't help kissing. Brother, don't. Seeing Chuyang was about to kiss, Xiaoyu struggled. But she heard that after doing these things with a man, there will be children. She is not ready yet. But no matter how hard she struggles, she can't break free from Chuyang. In the end, I had to be kissed by Chuyang. Little brother, don't touch where. Feeling that he was touched somewhere by Chuyang, Xiaoyu said instantly. Sister, I want. Looking at Xiaoyu's deep mire, unable to extricate herself, Chuyang bit her ear and said softly. Little brother, don't. Watching Chuyang unraveling her clothes, Xiaoyu said in a hurry, but before she finished speaking, Chuyang was stripped and put on the bed. Ah, all of them sounded in the hall with a little bit of magical sound. These licking dogs, the foreigners just gave them some benefits, just licked like this. Lao Su watched how mad they were. On the way back, every time Uncle Ju took a few steps, he scolded several times. Come out, he didn't like his meal. Master, don't get angry, it's really bad to be mad. Seeing Uncle Ju's anger, Axing could not help but comfort. That's right, you can't be mad, you're almost at the front. Go and wash the feet for the teacher. Looking at the Taoist church not far away, he couldn't help but say. Then, as if I heard something, his face suddenly changed. A stupid boy, Iang, when he left, he said that he would stay with Xiaoyu, but it was such an accompanying method. Master, what's wrong? After hearing Ju Shu's inexplicable words, Xing could not help asking. Iang and Xiaoyu are doing that kind of thing. Ju Shu thought for a while and then revealed. What kind of thing do you do, Master, can you say clearly? Xing said with a grim expression. Stop it. Anyway, we won't return to the temple tonight. Ji Shu said with a sigh. Where to go? Huaijuang. Xingman wondered. Huaijuang. Ju Shu nodded, then turned his direction and walked towards Yizhuang. Seeing this, Axing couldn't bear to look at Daotang for a few moments, and then left with Uncle Ju. Early the next morning, Chuyang woke up and looked at Xiaoyu lying in her arms, and she couldn't help showing a touch of contentment. After getting up and wearing something, he opened the closed door. Do not want to just open the door, two figures entered the eyelids. Master, brother, why are you sleeping here? Chuyang couldn't help but look shocked as he looked at the Uncle Ju and Xing who were resting by the door. It's not a master yet, he's obviously halfway to Yizhuang. He just wanted to return to the Daotang the same way, but he didn't want to. When he came back, he found that the door was dead and refused to be demolished by violence. We had to sleep here, Seeing Chu Yang asking for the reason, Xing said complainingly, and he also looked at Zhu Shu as he said, Ayang, in this matter, you must be a little bit forced. Uncle Zhu was also awakened by the opening of the door. After hearing Chu Yang's words, he suddenly looked at Chu Yang Road with a serious face. I see, thank you for the convenience you always give me. Chu Yang was so super intelligent. Hearing Ji Shu's words, he immediately understood that it turned out that Ji Shu couldn't bear to interrupt himself to do good deeds. You go to rest first, I go out to buy some food and come back, toil you old. After helping Zhu Shu to the temple, Chu Yang said with a shame, and then went out to buy food. After a minute, bring back a pile of crepes and milk and porridge. Little brother, how did you do it? Looking at the food on the table, Axing said in shock, how much time has passed? Don't worry so much, aren't you hungry? Don't eat yet. Uncle Ji patted Xing's head and scolded. You eat slowly, I go in to see Xiaoyu, and I will return to Yizhuang when I will. Watching Zhu Shu and Xing gorging to solve the food, Chu Yang immediately said. Later, he took a bowl of porridge and entered Xiaoyu's room. After spending about half an hour with him, Chu Yang left and went to Yizhuang. In Yizhuang, there was a lingering relationship with Jing Jing. After the time arrived, Chu Yang bid farewell to Jing Jing and went to the cafe. Flying in the void, looking at Renjia town, not far away, Chu Yang said with emotion, is it tiring to open the harem? Look at me every day, most of the time is wasted on women. Ding. Although this is the case, the system concluded that the host would not interrupt his harem path. The cold voice of the system sounded in Chu Yang's mind. Indeed, you are right. I will not give up the harem. After all, I cannot deceive my heart. I gained extraordinary power and became a god on earth. I don't want to open the harem. I'm afraid it's a joke. Hearing the words of the system, Chu Yang could not help saying. Having just said, maybe to verify some of his ideas, Chu Yang immediately asked, System, are there any people in this world who don't want to open the harem? Ding. No, no matter men, women or eunuchs. Every man wants a bunch of beautiful and virtuous women. Some exceptions require a bunch of stout men. Every woman wants a bunch of handsome men. Some exceptions you need a bunch of women, so do the eunuchs, you need a bunch of men. Quote. But I don't seem to see anyone like this in reality. Ding. They just don't have the power. Once they have the same power as the host, it is estimated that they will accept women or men more crazy than you. Ding. The host is the best Superman I've ever seen besides Clark Kent. Thanks for the praise. After hearing the system's words, Chu Yang smiled and then disappeared in a flash. Cafe. What's going on with Annie? It's here again. Looking at Annie beside Ren Ting Ting, Chu Yang couldn't help thinking about it. Ting Ting. Chu Yang called to Ren Ting Ting. Brother Yang, you're here. Miss Annie is looking for you. Ren Ting Ting held Chu Yang's hand and pulled it beside her. Mr. Chu, see you again. Annie saw Chu Yang's face and quickly stood up, reaching out. Say something. You don't need to shake hands. Chu Yang said, watching Annie reaching out. Mr. Chu, this is the case. Your master, Uncle Ji, has been fighting father since the church reopened, and has brought a lot of trouble to father. I sincerely hope that you persuade him. Annie could not help but withdrew his hand, and then said sincerely. My master is right in this matter, so I don't want to persuade him, you go now. Chu Yang shook his head. Mr. Chu, aside from my status as a Christian, father opening a church in Renjia town can drive the development of Renjia town, but your master Jushu. Seeing Chu Yang's order for the guest, Annie is still alive heart said. Ms. Annie, my master has always been against your father because he wants to force your father to leave the church. This is good for your father, but also for ordinary people in Renjiajun. Chu Yang also thought good he said. It's a good thing, obviously your master is Taoist, afraid that Father God came to take root and robbed him of his faith, so he targeted father like this. Annie said in disbelief. There is a demon in the church, and his strength is very strong. If he comes out, the people in Renjiajun will be hurt, so my master will repeatedly target your father and force him to leave the church. Chu Yang said helplessly. I was drunk when I met such a woman. There are no demons in the world. You are all superstitious, and even if there is God and Father, the demons will not dare to act. Annie is like an avid believer. God can't control China, thank you. And there are ghosts in this world. Chu Yong said lightly, then took out a piece of rune paper and stuck it on Annie's head. Chu Yong suddenly put a piece of rune paper on his forehead. Annie couldn't help but was agitated and wanted to take it off, but he suddenly saw a bleeding head hanging in front of himself, only 10 centimeters away from himself. Screaming, "Ah, there are ghosts, there are ghosts." The coffee drinkers around heard the scream of course, and suddenly cast an annoying look on her. "Young brother, what's wrong with Miss Annie?" Looking at Annie's panic, Ren Tingting said curiously. "Hell." Chu Yong smiled slightly. "Miss, are you okay? Miss?" A waiter came over and looked at Annie kneeling in horror, asking nervously. What if someone had an accident in the cafe? They would all be scolded to death. "She's okay, you can rest assured." Seeing the waiter intervening, Chu Yong could not help but say, and then he pulled up Annie and took off the rune paper. "Where's the ghost?" A piece of rune paper was picked, and Annie suddenly sobered up, looking at Chu Yong Road with a pale face. "Still superstitious?" Chu Yong asked with a smile. Annie shook her head again and again. "Now that you believe it, let's go back." Chu Yong took Ren Tingting to sit down and said after drinking coffee. "Mr. Chu, since there are ghosts in the world, the demon you said should also exist in the church. I wonder if you can surrender him," Annie said with a begging expression. "Can't." Seeing Annie talking about it, Chu Yong refused to think about it. "Is there no ability to surrender?" Annie said puzzledly. "No, but some people haven't died yet," Chu Yong said calmly, and he needed the demon to kill some deserved people, such as the Long Tudao, the mayor and the mayor's son and the group of transporters. Drug fake zombies. Otherwise, he would have let this demonic soul fly away half a month ago. As for why you don't kill these people yourself, one is that someone will do it for themselves and worry about it for themselves, and the other is that Chu Yong will leave a good impression to Jushu. After all, in the movie of Uncle Ju, except for the evil spirits of the grass mustard, Uncle Ju hasn't killed anyone. Please don't tell me, the horse thief in Mr. Spiritual Fantasy is an evil demon, don't blink. I think everyone is very nice and sincere. Why are there any word? Annie asked curiously. Don't ask so much, go back and rest early. Seeing this, Annie asked and asked, Chu Yong said impatiently. It's only noon, not in a hurry. Annie watched the time, quickly sat down and looked at Chu Yong Road. Ting Ting, the next time you pull this woman back, I will spank you. Seeing Annie not leaving, Chu Yong could not help but look at Ren Ting Ting, who held her arm. Brother Yang, there are so many people. You are too shameless to speak. After listening to Chu Yong, Ren Ting Ting said with a flushed face. Ah, Mr. Chu, you should talk about it better. Annie also suggested. What are you afraid of? I never care what other people look like, they can look at it, as long as you don't say a bad word about me. Chu Yong said indifferently. Time passed quickly, and in the evening it was evening. In front of the coffee shop, Chu Yong looked at Ren Ting Ting and said, Ting Ting, did you carry that piece of paper with you? Well, take your neck. Ren Ting Ting took out a piece of rune paper from her neck and shook it in front of Chu Yong. That's good. These days are not very peaceful. If you find something wrong, talk to this rune, then I can hear it. Of course, if you can't say it, you scream hard, the louder the more okay. Chu Yong was afraid that Ren Ting Ting forgot how to use it, and could not help telling again. I see, Brother Yang. Ren Ting Ting nodded. Mr. Chu, can you also give me a rune paper? Annie glanced at him, and after asking for the rune paper in Ren Ting Ting's hand, he asked Chu Yong. Don't you believe in God? Find your God to help you. Chu Yong looked at Annie and said playfully. Quote. Hearing Chu Yang's words, Annie was dumb. You're a kind person, and I won't embarrass you, then this amulet called me in danger. Thinking of the original work, this Annie was fascinated by the zombie, and finally it disappeared. Chu Yong couldn't help but speak, and said that she had lost Zhang Fu to her. Then hugged Ren Ting Ting and headed for Ren Fu. Looking at the figure of Chu Yong leaving, Annie carefully put away the rune paper he gave away. Shangxi rushes to evade the body. On the road a little distance from Renjiajun, the leader of the Dragon Squad was leading a group of zombies towards Renjiajun. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.